today, we're changing it up. I have been going back, well, not me, my amazing team has been going back and asking some of the other podcasts that I've actually been on if we could utilize that interview on Mom is in Control. So throughout the weeks to come, you may hear some interviews that I've done in the past with other people. So let's dive into today's episode. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know what you think.
Hi, this is Adam Carroll, host of the Build a Bigger Life podcast. In speaking and traveling all over the world, I meet some of the most interesting people. When I meet someone who embodies what it means to me to be the architect of their own life, I invite them to be on the show. The interview you're about to hear is one of these people. Someone who's choosing life over lifestyle, pursuing more of what they love to do and less of what they have to do. The blueprint to get you doing more of what you love is available for download at buildabiggerlife.com. Now, on to the interview. In the hot seat today is Heather Chauvin. Heather is the founder of the Mom is in Control podcast and is a sought-after expert on the topic of conscious parenting. She's a coach, consultant, and clearly she's running a very busy household full of conscious kiddos. I found two things incredibly powerful about Heather. First, it was stage 4 cancer that forced her into mindfulness, and she uses words in a way that suggests she gets to create her world. I really enjoyed my time with her, and I'm sure you will too. So let's get conscious with Heather Chauvin. Heather, I am so glad you're on the Build a Bigger Life podcast. Welcome.
Thank you, Adam. So excited to be here.
So, my first question of every guest is, what do you love about your life right now?
So when you ask this question, my first thought is to actually be alive. And so people wonder why I would say that. And that's kind of part of my journey that I'm sure we'll get into. But the whole essence of what do I love about my life right now is, my first response is that I'm alive and I'm able to create whatever I want to in this life.
That's amazing. It's actually one of the first tenets of the Build a Bigger Life blueprint for us is you are the architect of your own life. So it sounds like you came to that realization in a pretty profound way. Tell me about that.
So I think a lot of people believe that they are not the architect of their own life, and we're kind of preconditioned to, you got to do this, you got to fit in this mold. And part of that for me was, 4 years ago, I was into this personal development and this work and became my own business owner before. But 4 years ago, I was diagnosed with a stage 4 cancer. Oh, young kids, late 20s, wasn't even 30. He was 27 years old. I'm an old soul. People think like, Heather, how old are you? And I'm like, I'm not telling you, just do the math. But at that time, I was doing what I was taught. Hustle. Burn yourself out, because totally. That's what success equals, especially if you're a parent. You're supposed to be exhausted. You're supposed to be all of these things. And so while I was building my business, while I'm trying to be the best parent I possibly can, I put myself last on my to-do list. And, you don't get to the last items on your to-do list. So I just never became a priority in my life, realizing living by default. And that was a huge wake-up call for me that, I'm looking at all of these people and mentors that I'm looking up to. I'm like, I can't live like you. I'm sorry. I got to stop this race. And that was when I started to reshift my thinking and go, this has to be easier. This has to feel good. I should be able to feel healthy and alive on a daily basis, and not just that I'm just surviving and existing this experience. So that was my big aha moment.
Wow. So you are here. You have survived stage 4 cancer.
I am here. I am alive. There's a lot that has transpired from this. And I actually had to, after I was diagnosed, coming into it, I realized I had to surrender to Western medicine because I was granted the opportunity of a very rapid growing cancer. So I didn't have time to, I was Googling, but it was just growing so big that I really had to take quick action. So I completely surrendered. And I remember I went through chemo, lost everything, and it was a huge wake-up call for me. And I had to slowly start asking myself, what is it? How do I want to feel today? And when I had nothing left to give to the world, nothing left to give to my children, like, I want to feel alive. Well, what does it mean to feel alive when you're, practically feel like you have nothing left in you? And so I was so mindful of the people I surrounded myself with. Like, I could feel when people would come and visit me, and I'd be like, oh, your energy is just awful. Like, you're treating me like I'm already dead, and you're so sad and negative. So I would tell people, you're not allowed in here. I would have that boundary. And I just slowly started asking myself, how do you want to feel? How do you want to feel? And sitting with that uncomfortable moment of, if I'm here next year, I never knew. I was constantly living in the state of fear, but at the same time, I had to ask myself, I am alive. I can create today. Yeah. So I'm going to create today, and I'm going to see where tomorrow brings me, and the next day and the next day. And I'm healthier than ever. Now I'm in what I call like the thrival state, where I can look at my health and go, what's next? How can I the biohacking and all of that fun stuff. I'm like, how can I get it to the next level? And having 3 children, 2 crazy dogs, a very successful international brand, and going, I feel healthier and have more energy than I ever have in my life. That's when society is doing something wrong.
I love hearing this story. I especially want to pay close attention to the language you use, because you said, I surrendered to Western medicine. You said, I was gifted this fast-growing cancer that forced me to learn quickly. Your language clearly is one of someone who understands that everything around you is teaching you something. And that if we're not listening, right, your body is responding to whatever you're supposed to be learning. Or am I misreading that?
No, I find it's interesting, because when you can see people's mindsets and belief based on the language that they use.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You and I are connected to Lisa Peterson, and she talks about this all the time, even when you're trying to attract a target market. Well, you have to utilize who do you want to attract? What's the language that you use? And I remember, I use this analogy all the time in the story, but I remember walking out of the hospital when I was diagnosed, and it was 4 days before Christmas. And I looked up, it was raining, and I said, you finally have my attention. Mm. And I don't know who or what I was talking to, because at that point I was kind of not confused. I believed in universe. I believed in something bigger, but I was starting to form my own beliefs. Right. And I said, I don't know what, I just finally was like, you got my attention. I'm listening to you. And so I just started paying attention to everything in my life, opportunities for people to say, hey, try this, do this. And I would take that as a lesson and grab towards that. And when I say, cancer was a gift, stage 4 cancer was a gift, because to be honest, and this sounds awful, I don't think I would have stopped if I had stage 1. I think it would have been like a little knock, but I don't think it would have punched me the way that it did. I don't think it would have smacked me. I was a force to be reckoned with. I'm still a force to be reckoned with, but now I've manipulated and focused my energy, not manipulated. I've focused my energy on what is feeding me rather than what is sucking the life out of me. And so I think, whoever, whatever is there conspiring is like, this girl is not going to stop unless she gets something big. And And of course, my little guy in the background is angry because I think something's going on with SpongeBob SquarePants. So.
Well, maybe a good segue. Maybe he's the segue we need. You have a podcast called Mom is in Control. Mm-hmm. And you talk about conscious parenting and conscious, what did we just say? Conscious...
It's like conscious awareness and conscious living.
Yeah.
Parenting was the segue into the work that I do. I used to be a social worker. I actually worked with very vulnerable families, loved mental health, loved mindfulness, and I started my business because it was all about how can I teach meditation and mindfulness to my son who was struggling, who's 4, my oldest, struggling at 4 years old with anxiety and anger, and I had no idea how to help him. And I thought, I went to school for this. Not everybody goes to school for this, and I still can't figure it out. I still feel like a failure. And conscious parenting is about mindfulness and awareness. And too often we are jumping ourselves into this relationship with our children, giving birth to them or adopting them. They come into our life and you look at them and you're like, oh crap, now what? And we realize, society expects you to become a different person. Like all of a sudden you just know exactly what you're doing. But the truth is, I believe our children pick us to teach us where we need to grow and learn and evolve and change. And so it's this beautiful relationship of constantly showing up every single day and going, what do you need to teach me today? What am I going to learn today? But it's beautiful when you're teaching these skills and practicing what you preach. Parenting is a gift and a disaster all in one.
They are amazing little teachers about where our shortcomings are sometimes, aren't they? Do you find yourself having a split-second reaction at times with your boys? You have 3 boys of varying ages, 5, 8, and 13 now, right? Do you find that you have split-second reactions and then you sort of double back and say, time out, Mom didn't mean to respond that way. Here's what I wanted to say?
Every day. But the interesting part now is my children feel safe enough, and I think this is really important to pinpoint. My children feel safe enough to call me out on my crap.
And how do they do that? How does that manifest?
So, example, I will lose my mind, and my oldest, because he's the oldest, so he can communicate this. The middle one, he does this in other ways, and the little one, he'll just react differently. But the oldest will go, did you go to the gym today, Mom? Have you been drinking too much coffee? And, did you not get enough sleep last night? And he's calling me out. And before I'd be like, how dare you? You don't talk to a mother like that. I am the authority, blah, 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 blah. And now I catch myself and I go, yeah, you're right. I am a little tired. Yeah. Or I will start screaming and yelling and they start laughing at me. And so at first I would say, don't you dare laugh at me. How dare you? How dare you? And now I go, okay, you can't take me seriously when I'm yelling because I'm not being authentic. Right. I'm reacting. And so I calm down and I go, okay, guys, let's talk about this. We're in our red zone. I talk about this all the time. You're in your red zone. You can't do anything effectively from your red zone. So, yeah, I apologize a lot, but the beauty of that is they apologize too. Yeah. What was it yesterday? My son was freaking out. He just left, so I can talk about him now. I always tell him these are going to be teachable moments. End up in the book or something.
Yes.
So he goes, I want to go to the mall. Let's go to the mall. I'm like, I'm tired. Whatever. We just got home from the gym. So we go to the mall. Can you buy me some pants? I need pants. I'm like, yeah, I'll buy you pants. So he picks out these $120 sweatpants. I'm like, I'm sorry. I got like a $50 budget for your clothes. If you want to go to like the secondhand store, we can do that. But he's like, you can afford it. You can afford it. I said, just because we can afford something doesn't mean I'm going to spend $120 on these sweatpants that are cool. This is ridiculous. I have no idea why workout gear now costs more and is more fashionable than regular clothes.
Athleisure, Mom. Come on. It's athleisure.
Oh my gosh. So I said to him, no, it's not happening. We didn't argue. He got quiet. He shut down. Get home. He blows up. He reacts. And I'm non-reactive. So I'm just like, okay, I get it. Yep. Freaks out, calls me all the names in the book. And I'm just non-reactive because now I know he's in the red zone. Not telling you that it happens all the time, but it worked out by the book yesterday. Then at night, he says to me, I'm really sorry, Mom. I reacted. I was angry. And he was able to verbalize and communicate. Takes a long time to get there. A lot of self-work.
No doubt. Yeah. And this is your 13-year-old?
Yes. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. How do you how did you start that when he was 4? How do you lead a 4-year-old or a 6 or 12 or 15-year-old through meditation to become mindful of their state?
So, one, I like to go back to why is my business, my podcast called Mom is in Control? So pulling back, going into Mom is in Control, the essence of being in control is not about controlling other people, right? Everyone laughs and giggles, oh yeah, my mom is in control. No, when you feel in control of your life, this is when magic happens around you. This is when those relationships with your children become more in alignment. This is when you just feel on fire, like anything is possible. Mm-hmm. So going back, when my son was 4, it started, really it was just about me. It was all about me. My son needs to meditate. My kid needs to meditate. What I was really trying to say deep down in my soul is, Heather, you need to meditate.
Right.
So I was constantly projecting all of my own insecurities, my anxiety, my fear, my stress onto my son. Mm-hmm. But that's what led me to where I am today, realizing that I was projecting all of this. So as I start to teach him mindfulness, which was starting as, okay, you're in a bedtime, right? You're going to bed. We're just putting on some mindfulness music. I'm teaching you. I'm just like, close your eyes, do this, whatever. Really what I was teaching him was to calm down, but I could not practice what I was preaching because I didn't know how. So when I started doing meditation and mindfulness myself, what was happening is I could see his reaction and I was like, I get it. I know how to feel in control of my freak out. So therefore I do not feel intimidated by your freak out. Does that make sense?
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
So if someone comes to you and goes, can you teach me how to cook? And you're like, I have no idea how to cook. Oh my gosh, this is I feel so weird and da-da-da. But if you feel confident in something, then you're like, can you teach me how to cook? Yeah, of course I can teach you how to cook. This is easy, right?
Sure.
So this is why when I'm working with people, I'm like, guys, it's practicing what you preach. You want your child to become this calm, confident person. We can't live vicariously through our children. We have to do the work ourselves. We have to do the work ourselves. You want your children to be good with money? You need to learn to be good with money. You want your children to go after their dreams, push through resistance, understand how to feel fear? You need to learn it first. You are their teacher.
Wow. Do you have to have a master's degree to know this stuff? It is. I'm like totally speechless. There's so much going on in the mindfulness movement today. And you were the first person I've met who's really talked about mindful parenting as it relates to helping your children be more mindful. Mm-hmm. And I've talked with a lot of people who talk about, making sure your kids have a spiritual life and understand that. And I think there's some synergies. But I'm really curious, do you find you're a bit of a unicorn in the market?
So this is actually interesting because I did a whole interview series conference on this called Teach Your Kid to Meditate.
Yeah.
And it was with Dr. Bruce Lipton, Dr. Shefali, Daniel Siegel, like any of the mindfulness parenting books that you find out there, you can, I talk to them. What I do find missing in the market is practical strategy. So people will read a theory or they understand it in theory, like, yeah, mindfulness is cool, but what do I do in the moment when I'm trying to get my kids out the door in the morning and I'm tired and exhausted? And what I tell people is, it doesn't start in the moment. Like, you have to pre-plan your life. You have to get clear on what is it. You talk about being the architect of your life. What is it that you want? What is it that you crave? I say behavior is a language. Your behavior is telling you something. But if you think meditating for 5 minutes a day or 10 minutes a day with you and getting, and I emphasize on getting or making your child meditate is going to transform your whole life, that's just one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's so much more that happens, but that's kind of like the gateway for so many people.
We're going to talk about that course, and I want you to tell everyone how to find it. Before we do, what's your take on technology, kids and technology and social media, and what it's doing in the realm of mindfulness or the lack of mindfulness?
Well, if they're watching my face, I'm like, So that's an interesting one. There was a woman I interviewed, and I don't remember her name, Dr. something interesting. She's on the conference, but she was talking about how she actually diagnoses children with like screen disorders, and they're actually developing rehab facilities for children.
Yeah.
I think there's pros and cons to it. I also believe that the younger brain is preconditioned to have vulnerabilities to it. So you're going to have debate for it or against it. I think there's greatness there, but I think too much of anything, like me with a bag of chips, is not a good thing, right? So just giving me a little bowl and going, just enjoy these 5 chips, I'm going to want more, right? I'm going to want more of it. As a parent myself, I really think we have to have boundaries with this stuff and follow through. Yeah. I'm one of those rebels. I do things weird. And I admit this. I don't care what other people think of me and how I parent. And I think that serves me well, but that drives my children nuts. We don't have video games in this house. We do have Netflix and one communal computer. So right now, that's what they're on because I'm busy, right?
Right.
And I need their attention over there. But I do feel like, in the education movement, it's like they're moving away from pen and paper, and it's becoming like iPads and all of these things. I think we do need to get down to our roots, and there is something that does happen in the brain, and we're feeling more disconnected as humans. Yeah. And that's why I think it's really important as parents that we go, you know what, you're not going to like me because I just limit your screen time. And yeah, it's annoying. What is this stuff you're making us do in nature, right? Like going for walks and doing all these weird things. But your job is not for them to like you right now. Your job is to create those neural pathways in their brain so that when they are adults, they're like, thank you. Yeah. Thank you. And that's what I feel like my response is to that. And my children wouldn't agree.
You're clearly doing a great job, though. We do not have a video gaming system either. And although they do have screens, and there's quite a few screens in our house, which tends to be a bit of a challenge. Your potato chip bag example, it like totally hits home for me because my youngest son cannot open a bag of chips and be trusted to have a bowl full. He will eat the bag of chips. And to carry that metaphor forward, if they're using the iPad at school all day, it's almost like he's had a bag of chips at school and he wants more chips when he comes home. And so there's a lot of times he walks right in the door and he'll barricade himself in the bathroom under the guise of, needing to go, but he's in there for 20 or 30 minutes and clearly he's on a device. So yeah, I'm super fascinated by how you handle that or what you tell him to know that you're not going to dig this, but there is no screen time.
So we had, I've noticed different, like how all my children react differently, right? So my middle son sounds like your son who would spend that amount of time on a screen and then react in anger. And I noticed it at different ages, right? When he was younger, it was worse. And then when he's older, he has more self-emotional control. But it's like me, I love my work. And then I'm working and then the weekend comes and I tell my husband, take my computer from me and don't tell me where it is. And it doesn't matter how much I beg you for it. Take it and take my phone, right? So I've gone to the extreme where we actually have a safe in our house and I've put the devices in the safe and I'm like, they're gone for the weekend. There is a detox period that does happen, but if you hold that boundary, it's okay. It's okay. If you hold that boundary, they will realize she's not going to give in or dad's not going to give in. But I will even get my children to go, one will pin off the other one. It doesn't matter how hard you try, she ain't going to give up. And But if they know, just ask her 5 times, and on the 6th time she'll give it to you. They know. So it's drawing that line in the sand. You're doing it for their mental health. We're told to put medicine in a locked up medicine cabinet, but why are we not doing this with other things that are affecting our children?
Yeah.
It's like you're keeping the bottle of aspirin or, something dangerous out for your kid, and you're like, don't touch it, don't touch it, don't touch it. We have to realize that it's affecting them on a deeper level. And I truly believe because it's growing at such a rapid pace, 20 years from now, they're going to have laws against it like they do smoking.
Have you seen the Simon Sinek video about the issue with millennials in the workplace? And he talks about, they really suffer from 3 things: failed parenting strategies. The second is instant gratification. And the third is technology. And that technology piece, he said, these are dopamine devices, and we give them to, in some cases, kindergarten kids with an iPad, but certainly 8, 10-year-olds, they might have a phone. In our house, it was 11 is the age you can get a phone. But at that age, we've given them a dopamine device. If they want to feel good, they just, Instagram or Snapchat their friends, and boom, they've got it. So.
I know it. You know what? It's because you want to live in society, right? And then there's ways to do that. And our oldest has an old phone of mine. He doesn't have it during the week. Like, he never has his phone. But now his thing is, how do I connect with my friends? How do I want to go to so-and-so's house. Can I talk to them for 10 minutes? And I don't want to feel like I'm monitoring or rashing this out. But I'm just like, you know what, buddy, we need this open communication here. It's not that I don't trust you. I don't trust the world, and it's not monitored the way that it used to be. Like, I mean, when we were younger, paralyze yourself with TV, great, but there was no conversations. You were just staring at something.
Right.
Now when when my son is watching people play video games on YouTube, I'm like, I have no idea the conversations that these people are having with my son.
Right.
Yeah. I think we just, as they grow, we need to have that open communication, and it's okay to be, I call myself weird, but really what I am is like that change maker. I'm like, I'm just taking a stand for this. I'm not allowing it. And when you have these other conversations with other parents, they're like, oh, I wish I could get my kid off this. wish I could get my kid off of that. And I'm like, you can. You just don't want to deal with the discomfort that's going to come with your action.
Right. Yeah. It's that line in the sand that they have a hard time defending, right? Because after a while, it's like, it's just easier to give in. It's just easier. You are so fascinating. I'm so glad you and I got introduced. What 3 books have been monumental for you, Heather?
So I want to laugh because I just love reading. Anything Brene Brown teaches. Yes. Love her stuff. Daring Greatly. Absolutely awesome love it.
Yeah.
You're going to think this is funny, and it's probably just because I read it. And there's always those quotes of like, the last thing that's in your mind is what you're going to remember. Tiffany Haddish, The Last Black Unicorn. You've probably never heard of her.
I've never heard of this book. I know of her, but I don't know that book. Yeah.
Okay, she's a comedian.
Yeah.
And what I love about this woman is because we take life way too serious. We take personal development way too serious. And she's been through some dark stuff in her life, and the whole book is her telling these crazy stories, but with a humorous background. And what I love about that is just seeing how she's been able to be successful with adversity in her life. So I love that book. And this is an interesting book. You've probably never heard of this. I guarantee you've never heard of this. So when I had my son, I was 18 years old, my oldest. And a friend gave me this book. It was called You Look Too Young to Be a Mom. And the whole book was full of success stories from single teen parents who, in 10 years wrote the story of like, you can do this, you can do this.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting there while my friends were out getting drunk and wasted, 8 months pregnant, reading these stories from people who were like, it sucked in the moment, but I did this, and I'm successful now. And I moved on in my life. And that was hands down the number one book that changed my life.
Really?
Yeah.
I love it.
Because everything I read about it was, you're going to become a statistic. Your life is going to suck.
Yeah.
It's now over. And this was the first book that gave me hope that change is possible if you create it.
That's amazing. Do you remember the author?
Her name was something Davis, and I reached out to her, and she writes multiple books. And I don't even think she was just the one who got the book together and connected all these stories. But I reached out to her and never heard from her. She's like a big author. One day I'll meet her when I have my own book in my hand.
I love it. You are right that I have not heard that book before mentioned as the book that's life-changing. What's the one message? Like if there was one message that you were to write on your body and show the world that this was your one message, what is it?
Anything is possible if you believe it's possible. And if you have the desire, if the ache is in you, if the idea is in you, it was meant to be birthed out into the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd have to write that probably all over, like that'd go all down your back.
I know, it's a big message, but it really is just, if people are listening to you for a reason, they're listening to this conversation for a reason. So what is it in them that wants to be expressed? It's there for a reason to become expressed. So listen to that ache and keep following through. That's awesome. I wouldn't be here right now if I didn't follow through.
That's awesome. One last question. Two, actually. I have two for you. The first one is, what does it mean to you to build a bigger life?
So when you say that, I think of simplicity, because a bigger life doesn't mean more of anything. It's this energy to me. So it's getting back to the basics of who am I? What do I want? How do I want to feel? And growing and living from that place. And that to me feels like a bigger life.
So cool. The whole thing is build a bigger life, not a bigger lifestyle. So you're spot on. I mean, that's kind of been my
I did my research. Research.
You good. You're so good. The last one is, how can people get more of you? Because I know my listeners want more of you.
Yeah, so they can find me on my website, Heather Chauvin. My last name spelled CHAUVIN.com. My podcast is Mom is in Control. My husband is actually just starting Dad is in Control, so he has his own podcast too. And I have free resources on my website. So the Teach Your Kid to Meditate conference, so mindfulness, mindful discipline, time management, all of that fun stuff. You can find all those resources on my website.
So cool. Heather, I have to say, just in meeting you on here, you are thriving. You're in thrival mode for sure, I can tell.
Yay, thanks.
I can sense it all the way through from just north of Detroit all the way down to Des Moines. And I would love to have you back again, because I think you're super fascinating and there's a lot more that we need to cover. Would you be open?
Sure. Yes. Thanks, Adam. I would love it. I could talk about this stuff all day.
I bet you could. Could. And people would listen. So thank you for what you do. Thanks for being a part of this community and building your own. And I look forward to having you on soon.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the show. Every one of my interviewees has certain things in common, which I've summarized in the blueprint available at buildabiggerlife.com. It contains the 9 core tenets extracted from each of the past interviews and will get you started building your own version of a bigger life. If you liked what you heard on the show, please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. Until next time.
Motherhood, business, and impact. Are you a seasoned business owner or professional woman who continuously asks herself, is it even possible
to feel in alignment both at home and work? The answer is yes, and I am living proof that this is possible. But it does take new skills, different strategy, and mindset in order to achieve the alignment that your soul craves. I get so many questions, emails, DMs on Instagram from you guys asking me, Heather, how do I do it? And I'm not going to lie, there is no one size fits all, but there's a lot that works for people and that I've noticed work for my clients as well. So I've decided to offer this free information session where I'm going to be showing you, I'm going to pull back the curtains. I'm going to show you what my calendar looks like. I'm going to answer your questions. This is non-scripted and just help you, authentically help you for those of you that are in business that are unclear on how to balance both. And I use that term lightly, balance. And at the end of this, I'm also going to be introducing my Soul Elite coaching program. So this is a year-long coaching experience where I'm literally pulling back the layers with you guys. And these are established business owners and professional women who want to be around like-minded women who want to elevate and want more in their lives. And you've already checked the professional, the cultural appropriate, successful boxes. You have the career, you have the money, you have the family, and yet you're burnt out. You feel out of alignment. You feel like there's not enough time in a day in order to achieve what you desire. So I'm here to call you out on your BS, to help you create that solid strategy and also help you manifest the life that you truly crave. Because let's be honest, you have one life and one opportunity to make an impact. So you have two options here. If you want to find out more information about Soul Elite, then you have to fill out an application, and then you and I are going to get on the phone for an introductory call to see if it's a good fit. So head on over to heatherchauvin.com/Soul Elite and fill out that application. But if you're still sitting on the fence and you're not sure and you want some introductory information first, then go ahead and register for that free webinar. You can get that at heatherchauvin.com/business.